This is the Good Governance Radio. GGR. Stay with us.
Your online radio. The new online radio that makes you happy.
The Good Governance Radio.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Let's go. This is your radio, your station.
GGR. Good Governance Radio.
In my newfound realities, the very essence of life is impact, and the very end of life is accountability to our Maker. What is your daily scorecard reading? Welcome to Good Governance Radio. My name remains Ebere Chidera, and
Oluwatobi Lol. Wait, Oluwatobi Loba. Yeah, there's a B at the end.
I'm now vindicated. Even the owner of the name found it difficult to call it because of the length. All right. Good morning and welcome to me.
Yes.
It was a very sentimental night for football lovers. Manchester United used to have a strong fan base in Nigeria, but just because we have our own young boy, Samuel Chukwueze, in the Villarreal team, it became a brotherhood thing for some time now. People weren't talking about the club, they were talking about the player. And somebody even came online to say the God of Ihanacha, and indeed we do it for Chukwueze. I think indeed if God answers such prayers, he was alive yesterday. The whole it was so upsetting. The whole 11 players scored their penalties, and we went down to the goalkeeper. So the Villarreal goalkeeper scored his, pushing the ball towards the left corner of the net. But the number one goalkeeper, acclaimed number one goalkeeper, talking about the Man U, David De Gea, lifted a very, very weak penalty shot, and
that's declared it for the
Spanish goalkeeper went down. I mean, the Spanish club goalkeeper, talking about Villarreal goalkeeper, went to the right way, parried the ball off, and that was the end of that game in favor. Deciding act. So many things to celebrate Nigerians for. Our own young boy, still in the world of sports, Paul Onuachu won the player of the month or player of the year in Belgium. That is the new number nine, Super Eagles number nine. And it wasn't too far a time, just few days ago, when our own Ihanacho and Ndidi won the FA Cup. For a very long time, Toby, we have not seen a Nigerian win the African Cup. African best player of the year. And I think the last we had was when Kanu Wampo took it consecutively. After Ikpeba, it was Kanu. After Kanu, it was Ikpeba rather. And we have not had Okocha came close between him and Mustafa Haji. And twice he came close. And twice the Nigerian coaches didn't live up to their expectation, and he lost it. And since then, even though they have been sponsored by our own local brand there, that award, we have not really laid our hands on that trophy. But now we have four young players in Ndidi, Ihanacho, Onuachu, and Chukwueze doing wonders over there. Do we have any hope of laying hands on that award so soon?
You know where I stand when it comes to sports in Nigeria. I think that we can, because if you look very closely at our own local leagues, you will see a number of very, very skillful players. We are getting better. That is one thing that we are getting better. We are getting more recognition. That's a good thing.
Yes, we started on that note because for some time now we have been bombarded with negative news in the country. For once, we have something to celebrate.
And Nigerians love celebrating sports.
We love football. Those guys are doing that. They are not powered by crude oil, they are not powered by Granite Pyramid, they are not powered by any 13% derivative. No. They are powered by talent.
By talent and passion for the game.
Exactly. And we are saying authoritatively that we have thousands, if not millions of Iheanachos, Chukwuezes, Ndidis, and so many of them are there. Congratulations to Chukwueze and their team. Congratulations to every other Nigeria in other sectors who is pushing out there to be what they should be and adding value. This is still Good Governance Radio. Remember, you can catch us live on ggr.com.ng or Good Governance Radio on our YouTube platform. Also, you can send messages to us, which will be giving you the number shortly. But for now, let's hit the road running with what the newspapers are saying today, talking about the newspaper headline on GGR. With me is the Blueprint newspaper. Let's start from the front page. Restructuring won't address our problems as a nation. That statement is coming from El Rufai, the executive governor of Kaduna State. That news is in page 6. Other lines from him wants the NJC, the Nigerian Judicial Council, to hands off appointment of state judges. Ukowa 650% derivation for oil producing states. Says we need new constitution, not amended. Sanwo-Olu asks for special economic status for Lagos. Fiscal federalism. Governors Efwere Madu concur on power devolution. State police. You can find that information, that particular news, on the page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper. Still on Blueprint, 53 Zamfara kidnapped victims released unconditionally. Okay, that's the good news there.
Good news.
Legislature, judiciary autonomy doesn't require executive order 10. Says governors committed to financial autonomy. That statement is coming from the NGF, and you can find it also in page 6. Disbanded Obona Obla panel uncovered NNPC's 60 billion naira US account. Prosecutor, that is page 9. Another news that can check bones there. We are borrowing and some of this money and developing ways. Okay, we come back there. Nigeria really under threat. Lawan and Gbajabiamila admit. Senate president and the speaker, they're coming together to say no more pretense. Nigeria under threat. 100 die in Niger, both Misha. 100 people wasted. Legalized marijuana turn Nigeria into nation of junkies. Mawa wants. Return Ibori 4.2 million loot, 4.2 million pounds loot. Yet in our coffers, Delta State government. We have not forgotten that as at yesterday, the Accountant General was assuring us
that it has been paid, it has been sent.
What do we have there? You have Vanguard.
Well, yes, Vanguard. Vanguard takes it from the constitutional amendment, saying that demand for fiscal federalism and state police dominates the submission at the constitutional amendment discussions. It says here, NGF assaults or faults Buhari on his executive order on judicial autonomy. And just like you have there, 100 persons feared dead in Niger boat mishap. 100 persons. Wow. Vanguard here also has on page 19, pension assets rises by 0.8%. Makes it a total of 12.4 trillion naira pension assets in Nigeria. And their big headline here is wave of attacks threaten Nigeria's existence, says the NASS. That is Buhari, Lawan, Gbaja, Sultan, Oni speak at House of Reps Security Summit. Yes, insecurity challenging our nationhood, standing against our ambitions. Okay, let's look at some other little headlines here. On page 9, on Vanguard, we have why Buhari didn't attend the burial of COAS and others. The presidency has come out to give reasons why the president himself was not available, or should I say around for that ceremony. It also goes ahead to say fire service seeks arms to protect personnel and appliances. The fire service seeks arms to protect personnel and appliances on page 8 of the Vanguard. Also on the Vanguard, no going back on Asaba declaration. Southern governors says it's time for the FG to shed excessive weight. It's time for the FG to shed excessive weight. And of course, just like one of the headlines you read there, reps summon Malami over alleged blockage of $60 billion. Yes, $60 billion. Reps summon Malami over alleged blockage of $60 billion. 4.2 million euros yet to be returned to Delta State. That is OAGF saying that. This, and of course, more details can be found on the pages of the Vanguard for this morning.
And for this, that we have it here. Power devolution. State police demands dominant public hearings. Power devolution. State police demands dominate public hearings. Akeredolu seeks return to 1963 Constitution. Okowa demands new document, not amended. Lagos wants special status. NLC Norge seek retention of minimum wage, local government autonomy. Buhari mourns as 158 people fell dead in Kebbi boat mishap. Different from the Niger. This is serious.
Kebbi. So that's
Kebbi,
two different water hazard.
Exactly. Bandits kill Sokoto village head, 21 others. Wow.
Bandits.
Oh my God.
Unknown gunmen. Headsmen.
Government's delay in signing agreement prolongs judicial legislative worker strike. Page 10 there. And that of bandits being killed by Sokoto village heads and 21 others. You can find it on page 50. Toby.
Yes, sir.
NNPC seeks to acquire 20% stake in Dangote Refinery. Page 50 there. I was shocked to read that when we say bandits kill village head and 21 others. We're not talking about mosquito here. We're talking about human beings.
We're talking about human beings.
That will be all for the
headlines.
Big headlines. The last day being the this day newspapers. Where do we start from now, Toby?
Where do we start from? Okay, let's quickly take it from this Delta issue. What really is going on?
What is going on is not too far from what has been going on. I have always said this, that we must show the moral power to make a change. The Accountant General came out yesterday to say, we have given you the money. As at yesterday, Delta state government officials said we have not seen the money. And today they are insisting we have not seen the money.
Not seen what?
And nobody is refuting these things. You see, I think it was this tele-evangelist, Reverend Dr. Mokwa. He said every liar is a potential thief and every thief is a potential murderer. I have always told people that you can't be talking about sanity, fighting corruption, if you don't start. I borrow your words yesterday. You said, let's kill the elephant in the room first. So when all these petty lies we tell with boldness, and I don't know who is lying here.
We don't know who.
We don't know, but if
it is the Delta state government that is, why? Do they really need to come up with a falsehood? And if it's the Accountant General, is it really necessary? If it has been sent, if it has been returned, plainly, transparency,
there
documents,
should be an
evidence.
Maybe this time around, just our humble advice here. Maybe if the Accountant General has actually transferred, they have paid the money in,
let them
he should be showing us the evidence They are not too poor not to go on national dailies to say, hey, this is the evidence of the payment, bank transaction receipt, teller or whatever. We have sent the money to you. Give us the evidence from your bank that you have not received, so that we rest that one. Make we know they come online, then sort our intelligence. All right. Look at what our governor here, one of our governors, he is not my governor anyway. I'm not denying him. He's a Nigerian. Restructuring won't address our problems as a nation. That statement is coming from Governor Nasser El-Rufai. And I begin to wonder, why do we have a group of people insisting that we cannot restructure when evidently this thing don't seem to be going or working the way we want it?
You know, there is a sense where you can say restructuring is not what we need, because we need to solve the issue on ground, right? And then begin to think of how to restructure so that those issues don't come about. But
the truth
I am not sure if that is the line in which the governor is towing.
If you don't restructure, you cannot solve so many things. For instance, we're now talking about opening up grazing lines, old grazing lines, right? When we know that in some part of the country, like the south, southeast, and southwest, development has overtaken inventories. So you cannot open up a lot of places now for open grazing, because those cities, those areas, they have been in tandem with development. So if we don't restructure to insist on certain amendments, we will still be at the mercy of old structures, hunting and killing people. Like I said, that's why we're still discussing how cows we eat when we have not decided what our graduates will be doing. So
I have to, I know I will sound like I'm in support of the governor here, but if I should call your attention to what the kind of pleas and bills, or shall I say submissions, that have been dominating the constitutional review that's going on, people are asking for physical federalism. People are asking for police, state police. That is some sense of restructuring. But you and I will agree that that is not going to solve the problem on ground. So restructuring in that sense cannot help. I don't think if every state, because what now happens when one state's police arrests another indigene in another state, and then we have two state police people arguing or having clashes, or, you know, that kind of thing. So restructuring might not be the first thing we should look at.
Okay.
Maybe even calling for amendment of the constitution might not be the first thing to look at.
So what do we look at?
We have to find a way to secure the country.
We
have to find a way to secure the country.
Okay, if you are talking about finding a way to secure the country, the problem is still because we're operating with the old structure. For instance, we can never overflog this issue. The southern governors came and said, no open grazing. We're looking up to make a balanced statement, talking about the Attorney General of the Federation, came and made a statement that questioned certain proficiency. Now, the president came and indirectly backed it up. And they were picking their lines from the Constitution, which people like us also, we have been able to read this Constitution, and we said, no, if you're quoting Section 41, subsection 1, you have to be very, very total, in the sense that your right of movement can be taken away if it's a jeopardy to the next man. Now, talking about restructuring or finding a way to, the governors are finding a way to solve the problem of insecurity. Somebody is dragging them back to a structure that brought us to this mess. So how do you solve the problem?
See, there is all due respect to lawmakers and the Constitution and the things that we have, but there is no constitutional in the face. Okay, take for example the incident with the village chief and all the 21 others that were killed. How much of the lines of the Constitution could they have said to protect them in that time of need? Sir, the police, we already have a structure for police. We already have a structure for police people to have arms and force people to have arms and to be dispatched and intelligence to be shared, right? What we need now is for the actualization of this structure that we even have at hand. Let the monies being sent, the security vote being sent to the states, let it get down to the grassroots of the police people. Let it get down to giving them the things they need, the ammunition they need, the mobility to get to those kind of villages that they need. Before we start restructuring how they are supposed to operate.
Toby, Farabale.
Yeah.
Farabale. I hope I spoke it well. Farabale.
Yeah, you tried. You tried.
Just look for an interpreter if you're listening. Now, talking about the police, let's jump. I didn't want to. I wanted to analyze more of the statement from the governor, but you have pushed me to jump. Let me jump to the issue of policing now. Do you know why people are insisting on state police?
Why?
Because they believe that the federal government has to shed off excess weight.
Yes.
And they are saying that 200 million people being policed by 400,000 policemen is never going to work, number one. Number two, the federal government is in charge and in control of the police. And most often, they abuse that control. I will take you straight to River State of those days, when one Joseph Mbo that became more popular than whatever. Why we recorded a situation where a commissioner of police stopped a sitting governor from getting into his office. Talking about Joseph Mbo and Rotimi Chibika Amechi, who was the governor of River State then. We saw where allegedly the commissioner of police ordered the shooting of certain people who didn't agree or who weren't in their camp. So it became an open war between the sitting governor, the number one citizen, the chief security officer of the state, and the commissioner of police, who was posted by the IG to practically traumatize and terrorize the sitting governor. And
sir, you think that type of occurrence won't occur when the governors are in charge of the police?
Yes. Now, on the other hand, people are saying, in as much as we have experienced such ugly situations, what will now happen if the governor is in charge of the police, having a state police now? Is he not going to use the police officers, the state police officers, as foot soldiers to traumatize political opponents and anybody who opposes his leadership?
That's because even with the system of state police, there still have to be some kind of central control. Anybody that is going to be heading the state division of the police will still have to report in one way or the other to someone who is at the federal level.
Okay, now
because we can't completely dissolve the police or take over the police from the federal level and give complete autonomy to the state for policing.
There is this local adage in my place. They say if the first child cannot crawl, how do you expect the second one to run? Now, still talking about the police, I am of the opinion, I want to agree with you, small.
Just
Don't
small.
Don't relax.
I should not take it as a win.
Yes, small. Now, why are we not making the federal police system to work? Let me explain. On the side of the police officers, most of them have refused to be constitutional. They have refused to be law-abiding. Up to today, they will tell you that bail is free, but get into their net now. Let me see if you will not pay anything less than 5,000 naira. They are still brutalizing. They are still harassing people. They are still keeping people over civil issues. They dump them at the police stations 7 days, 5 days when they are not supposed to stay more than 48 hours or in some cases 24 hours. Now, if we start off a police state system, a state police system, the same way we cannot obey the Constitution when it comes to the federal police system, How are we going to make that one work?
Or how is having the state police system going to make the number of policemen that we have increase?
Definitely, because whether we like it or not, we are under policed.
Look to Kaduna State, who is laying off thousands of people from work because of not being able to pay. If a state like that is given the autonomy of police,
or Kogi State,
won't it be the same problem?
Exactly.
More policemen who can't be paid
and they have
laid off and have ammunitions.
Okay, now let's look at it this way. In my opinion, the real problem of the police is not even being addressed. There was a time in this country, even up to now to an extent, the policing thing was abandoned for people who were rather frustrated. There was a time people didn't consider joining the police
as a job.
It wasn't attractive because of the way they are perceived. Now, I have been driving on the road before, and a police officer took my paper and he couldn't read the document. And he was there asking me useless questions that were getting on my nerves. Now, apparently, I was wondering how that young man became a custodian of the law in terms of maintaining law and order as a police officer.
Ammunition wielding custodian of the law.
God bless you. Now, shouldn't we, the same way we push and compel and force the coppers, those doing their enrolled in their NYSC, whatever, are we not supposed, is it not time we consider police as a high profile job that you must have maximum intelligence to be part of it? Why are we not recruiting graduates, intelligent people who study criminology, psychology, people who can actually relate with the public
and process information, have combat skills,
communicate with the law efficiently?
It begs the question of, is the police system in Nigeria working? Is it really working? Because by the time you take all these complaints that we've highlighted, and then you had the fact that freely the stations are being burnt down. There are stations across the country are being burnt down, are being vandalized, ammunitions are being stolen. You begin to ask yourself that, is giving autonomy to the state for the police, is that really the issue we should be discussing?
Because
that really the issue we should be discussing when it comes to the police?
Right now, the states where the police stations are being burned down, the governors haven't done enough to protect those facilities.
Haven't even come out to say
exactly what is happening
and what they are doing to curb the situation.
Exactly. So if, in as much as you are saying, yes, the federal government is in charge, is not within your control, but for the fact that that police station is within your state, you are the custodian of that environment, that facility. Okay, let's move on now. But from what we heard, the power devolution state police demands dominate public hearing, which means a lot of people are not even thinking,
they're not considering
exactly the consequences, and it is as if maybe people are just confident that by the time we have had communities where we had vigilante group. The community woke up, set up, mobilized, trusted and paid them. Most of them turned around to be the real criminals. So I am still afraid, very, very afraid, that until we find a way of killing corruption, until we find a way of tackling what we call economic insecurity, I don't know. I'm not here to validate the corruption of any police officer. But when you look at their living condition, when you look at the houses where they are coming out from, when you look at the so-called barracks, when you look at their uniform. See, I was telling somebody one day, I said, now the public school system is not all that efficient. The same way we are struggling to pay our school fees for our children is the same way the police officers are also struggling. I see no reason a police officer shouldn't be having at least a minimum of 1 bedroom flat to himself.
And some I don't know, subsidized amenities for their children,
so that they will not be under pressure. How can you give a man who is strictly under pressure AK-47 to mind you? Are you okay?
So many issues to be discussed, so many issues to be considered before decisions are taken. We can only hope that at the end of this constitutional amendment discourse, that what will be taken back to the Senate, to the House of Reps, will be considered and thoroughly, examined. Thoroughly examined.
Now, still talking about control. The governor of Delta State, talking about Dr. Ifeanyi, senator, of course, he's a doctor, so any of the titles suit him.
Go.
Yes. Ifeanyi Okowa, 650% derivation for oil producing states. We know they deserve it. We know in other parts of the world where we have oil producing communities and states, they are almost 100% in control.
Yes.
But I want to ask, they're already on 13%. And when you visit most of these oil producing states, plus the NDDC there, plus the 13%, I have not seen what they are doing. The only person that proved this argument wrong so far was Godswill Akpabio when he was the governor of Akwa Ibom State. That guy walked to a point where even those who were coming in didn't have anything to campaign with. You understand?
I do.
Good. But in my opinion, again, I used to tell them that good governance is not about the number of roads you awarded or you build. These roads cannot feed the people. If you cannot establish an enabling environment for industrialization, there's no way you can tackle unemployment and insecurity. Let's leave there now. Do you think, in your opinion, that the governors of these states have justified the 13% they have been getting ahead of other states, and even the establishment of NDDC? I know NDDC is not within their control, but if you add up the activities, the projects, the budgets of the NDDC to this 13%, do you think the governors have done well, or must we always come back to Abuja to blame the presidency?
See, the lack of transparency in governance generally in the country has robbed us and those in the government, right, of the actual ability to know exactly what is being done, how those monies are spent. If we begin to make a list of different allocations, different funds, either from federal government to state government or state government or other parastatals, we will begin to have so many questions to ask. So have they used it well? Sincerely, I don't know, because I don't even know how they get it, when they get it, how it is being used, what is promised for. Very good example is how is this whole issue of the loot and all that and being returned. There is no transparency. And without that transparency, sincerely, Nigerians are in the dark. Nigerians are in the dark.
And I'm saying what I want to say now with every sense of responsibility. I agree with Mr. Shehu or Malam Shehu Galba. You know, he asked a very pertinent question. He said the same states that cannot pay their workers, how are they going to engage state policemen, give them gun and leave them hungry
for a year, not pay them?
We have said this thing over the years. In as much as we are expecting the federal government to step up, not just the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, we have always clamored for good governance so that we don't personalize it.
Yes.
But the thing is, we have 36 governors who only wait for the last day of the month and expect the revenue sharing, collect whatever they can collect, increase their armored cars, increase their, what do they call this, convoy, go back to their state, pay the people they want to pay, pocket the rest, come back to Abuja, and live large.
And
So
live large.
is this what we were going to be? Because I am of the opinion
Mhm.
that the Nigerian governors, they have not done enough.
They've
We
not
can
done enough.
insult the presidency from now to
As
tomorrow.
long
We
as
can
we
abuse
want.
them. As far as I'm concerned, they have not done enough.
And then maybe we should give some level of kudos to the Western governors for bringing like this, creating this awareness that Nigerians have now. Our satellites seem to have turned to the governors. Now they've kind of created this awareness that, oh, governors too have enough to play.
But
We are now beginning to ask, what
Toby-
exactly are they doing?
Toby, we are not doing enough in that direction. It's still a sentimental and by a kind of bias-laden probe. We are still attached. I'm talking about the electorate. We're still attached to political sentiments. It has to be, if it's not PDP, like I told you the other day, Ronald's conscience, if it's a PDP state, every statement from APC members becomes an attack. If you're an APC state, every criticism or every statement from the PDP camp becomes an attack. We're no longer listening to the voice of reason. It's no longer about what is right or what is wrong. It's about defending what we do not, what we don't understand.
What we cannot see.
You can be part of this conversation. We will bring you in after this break. Don't go anywhere. Still GGR.
This is the Good Governance Radio.
Welcome back, GGR. You can join us, ggr.com.ng, or via our YouTube platform, Good Governance Radio. You can send us direct messages or WhatsApp conversations on 091-3023-6602. We are still cruising around the nation, burning issues. And of course, one of them was the fact that a lot of people asked why the president was not present at the burial of the chief of army staff, because they were trying to make comparison. We remember when the former security advisor to the president, talking about Goodluck Jonathan, General Aziza, died. The man traveled over and over and over to just respect or honor the relationship that existed. So, for a sitting chief of army staff to die on duty, and people expected the VP, expected the president. But the spokesman have said, no. Mr. President is a very humble man. He doesn't like disturbing Nigerians. He wouldn't want to oppress the environment with
and
the
take
convoy
away
and the protocol.
he said he didn't want to take away the attention because of the number of people who would have had to go there. He didn't want his protocol details to molest people.
Yeah,
according to his work.
It's good. It's good, but
good,
he went further to explain. That's one of the reasons the president don't go to
the central mosque has his prayers in the in the villa there
to avoid distractions. But we have always told the representatives of this government, we say, look, don't wait for Nigerians to grumble before you make your statement. I was when they were talking about fake news. I said, look, fake news thrive when you are economical with information.
When the real news is not out there.
If you make official statements and people come up with lies and manipulative statements, you can now react. But when you keep quiet, it will be as if you are arrogant or you are throwing it at the face of people and say, what do you want to hear? What do you want to know?
Nothing would have been wrong with, if not anything, a broadcast.
Exactly, the same
of the
day.
President himself, the same day, saying, the usual fellow Nigerians, my condolences in person because of the magnitude, the chief of army staff and a number of other generals and important people of the military.
Of course, and
giving his background in the military.
Is his family.
So should have been able to at least in person come out to say something or to give us, but kept quiet until it became an issue.
But I appreciate that humility when he says, I wouldn't want to suppress the environment, which means he was actually mourning.
He was mourning, of course. He declared that the flag should be thrown half-mast.
Exactly. People react to issues in different ways. People could be pained silently, but because we expect them to shout and all that, it could mean they are insensitive, but it's never the case.
Never the case.
All right.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Well, what is the reasons, or should I say excuse, for the vice president also? The same reasons?
We are not in touch with the internal workings and schedule of the VP. So maybe something very relevant, more relevant was about. Okay, we rather conclude this communication on a sad note where a whole 158
people.
A particular paper here said 158 and another said 100.
Yes, 100.
But
little over 100.
Let's average it between 100 and 158 people perished who were moving from Niger to
Kebbi.
This is one of the reasons I applaud Mr. President when it comes to alternative means of transportation.
Okay, in respect to the train.
And this is why I've been mad with people who are bent on destroying the rail line. Do you know that if you have functional railways, you have minimal road accidents, you have minimal perishing of goods from
transportation issues generally.
You understand?
But sir, this issue also brings you to question this age-old maintenance culture, or the lack of the maintenance culture in the country that we have,
because you have not prioritized alternatives. Now the rich will always fly.
Yes,
the rich will always drive executive cars on the road with security details. I don't know the last time I saw. Okay, look at what happened last month when the Super Eagles went to Benin Republic for the qualifiers of African Cup of Nations. Immediately Nigerians heard that we're going to travel through the waterways. Tongues started wagging. Do you want to kill them? Do you want to waste them? And for those players who play abroad, they understand that the waterways is a strong
means of transportation,
efficient means of transportation.
That's the word, efficient.
So they didn't waver, and they went to Benin Republic and returned safely from Lagos. Now, coming to your question, it's not just about maintenance. It's because the last time I went to Satellite Town, Lagos, there is this connecting waterways between that Satellite Town to an island where people really reside. I think as at that time, the boat was 15 naira or thereabout. Rickety boat that the what do you call it now? The people who
guys that have to paddle it.
Yeah, paddle the canoe, the boat, they have to evacuate a sizable volume of water from the boat before people can embark. Now, it was a gambling of life. Except the CMS axis or the Ikorodu axis of the Lagos waterfront, where you have life jackets and other facilities that is trying to come up to usage. Now, look at over there, we don't know the kind of safety structure that they put in place before those travelers could make the trip. No life jackets. In some countries, when a ship or a boat is moving, they have another backup boat with divers. Exactly. But we are still leaving that sector to people, or leaving that channel of transportation to people who we consider less privileged, until we look at it holistically as another means
of revenue generation
and convenience. Then we never solve such problems. Our condolences with the families. But we can't keep condoling people. Let's start doing
saving the lives before the issues happen.
You can still drop your comment 09130236602, or go to ggr.com.ng, or go straight to our YouTube, subscribe, like what we are doing, and the notification will always alert you when we are on air. Toby.
Yes, that's how much we can take for this morning. There's, however, this platform available for you listening to us right now to contribute and to be a very part of it. I hope that when we come back tomorrow to discuss this, we'll have more good news, to discuss.
That will
overturn
all the bad news.
Overturn all the bad news. We have to keep praying for Nigeria. We have to keep doing our own bit as individuals to make the country better, to make lives easier for our brothers and our neighbors and people that we find around us.
Yes, that is a very good one. Thomas Edison, after he discovered the electric bulb, his company caught fire, and while the whole stuff was being raised down, people came and say, "Oh, Thomas, you have lost everything." He said, "No, I've not lost anything. My mistakes are burnt up." Why don't we start considering all the things we have done wrongly, that our mistakes have been burnt up, and set up new records? We can be far better than we are now. But it has to engage you. It has to engage me collectively. If we get involved, interventions, innovations, and of course, moving forward, we become realities. Thank you. I am still Ebere Chidera, and with me, it has been
Akimbo Oluwatobiloba David. Or you can just call me Toby David. It's
now you are talking. Before that long assignment you are giving me here.
You can just call me Toby David.
Stay where you are, conscience oriented. Act where you are, conscience oriented. Deal with the next man where you are, conscience oriented. If you won't like it, don't do it. If you won't like it, don't do it. That's the best judgment. Until we come your way again, thank you.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Let's go. This is your radio, your station.
GGR, Good Governance Radio.
Your systems are offline.
This is the Good Governance Radio. GGR. Stay with us. You are listening to GGR, Good Governance Radio. Stay